Hello, welcome to this review of Julius Caesar, Pompey, and the Roman Civil War, 49 to 45 BC. I'll show you the box here. This is a block war game from Columbia Games that, as you can see, covers the Roman Civil War. And we're going to go through the game, through the components of the game, the gameplay, and then I'll tell you my review at the end. The gameplay obviously will be summarized, the rules. This is a two-player war game that takes 2 to 3 hours to play. It's a fairly straightforward, simple game to learn, and especially if you've played other games from the Columbia block war game system, this will feel very similar, especially the battles. But obviously, all the games in the series have some differences in the rules. Let's start by looking at the components. So you can see that the game is already set up here on the table. This is the new edition of the game. So this is a mounted board, kind of a horizontal board, as you can see with the map that goes from the Iberian Peninsula in Portugal here, all the way to Jerusalem, Antioch here on this side, also North Africa here as well. It's a nice looking map. It's you can identify the cities quite easily, and the different points on the map. There's an interesting aspect that they've included some. Just for Chrome, they've included some locations of historical battles, and the game will be one of the players will be sitting on this side. That player will be Pompey, and then on the other side will be Julius Caesar. So the game uses a fog of war system, like most block war games, where if I'm Pompey, as I'm sitting here, I'm Pompey. I can see obviously my blocks, but I cannot see Caesar's blocks as they are facing Caesar. Until there is a battle, and then I will be able to see my opponent's blocks. So nice looking board. Then obviously there's the blocks in the game, typical Columbia blocks. They come with a sticker sheet, so you will need to put all the stickers on them before you start playing. But that's just a one-time thing. The game also comes with 27. A deck of 27 cards. This is the back side of the cards, and this is the way the cards look like. They're fairly simple, as you can see. Some text on a few of them. We'll get to the cards in a second, but it's a shared deck for the two players, and they're okay. And then there's also 4 dice, regular 6-sided dice for the battles, and the rule book. The rule book is a rule book with, I'm going to show it to you here. The rule book has 8 pages. It's a color rule book. It basically goes through the introduction to the game, the rules. It also covers the setup, obviously, with a few examples. It's very easy to read. I found it to be very, very straightforward, easy, covers everything. And like I said, it's 8 pages, not even 8, because this last page just has this part here. There's an index, so 7.5 pages really. If you've never played, even if you've never played a block war game, in probably 30 minutes, you go through all of this and you understand the game. And then you're gonna want to basically refer to the rule book for a couple of things. I think there's a couple of things like amphibious movement, and things like that you refer to the rule book from time to time. But it's a really straightforward game, and anyone can learn it fairly quickly. So the way I'm just gonna go through the gameplay and the rules to give you a flavor. This will not be exhaustive, but the idea of the game is that there's 5 years in the game, 5 years from 49 BC to 45 BC, as you can see there, and I've put a block here just to signal the years passing. And the game will have 5 game turns in each year, so a total of 25 game turns. But the game can end before the last year, before 45 BC. So the game will either end before or it will end at the last turn of 45 BC. How does victory look like? Well, victory looks like um, basically you at the end of each year you're going to score the your points. Points are basically two things. It's the number of points that you see here. For example, Utica has 1 point. I'm just going to take these blocks out of the way. Rome has 2 points. Athena 1 point, Ephesus 1 point. So you add the number of points, Carthago Nova 1 point. You add the number of points of your friendly cities, meaning cities that where you have troops, and you also add the number of leaders that you've killed from your opponent's side. You add those two together, and if at the end of the year someone has 10 points, then you don't play the following year, and the game is done there. And whoever has 10 points is the winner. And this is fairly, it's transparent because at any point you know how many leaders you've lost and you know what points you have and how many points your opponent has, so you can very quickly see the state of the board. If by the end of year 5, no, if the game doesn't end before that, we go to year 5. In year 5, the player with the most points at the end is the winner. If there's a tie, then whoever has Rome is the winner. If no one has Rome, and actually, as you can see in the beginning of the game, no one has Rome. It's a little bit hard to see with the blocks, but you can see that Rome is basically vacant right now. So whoever has Rome wins. If no one has Rome and players are tied in points, then the game ends in a draw, which I think is a very rare occasion. So the game will go through 3 phases. It will go through the card phase. It will go through a card phase. It will go through a command phase, a battle phase, and then at the end of each year, there's a winter phase. So, like I said, there's 5 years in the game, each divided into 5 turns. And the first phase is a card phase. So card phase, basically, each player will get 6 cards. So I would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say this is my starting hand. I will choose one of these cards to discard. I would discard this one, for example. I would discard it face down, so my opponent doesn't see. My opponent does exactly the same. 6 cards, chooses 5, discards 1. And then these cards, this is going to be my hand for the year. So I'm going to play these 5 cards during my turns. So one for each turn. And we know that the year is over when both players have played their 5 cards. This is a common deck, and it gets reshuffled at the end of every year. So there's the cards that you use will go back into the deck and will be potentially recycled. The way it works is, so I've got my 5 cards, I've discarded 1, and I will choose 1 card. For the first turn, I will choose 1 card face down, which will be my card that I will play. My opponent does the same, and then we reveal the cards at the same time. And whoever has the highest move card is player 1. Move is basically this number here, so it's a 2. The card that I played is a 3. So whoever has the highest move card will go first. If there's a tie, Caesar always goes first. If I play a god card, and most of the cards are like this, they look like this, and they have 2 values. Other cards have text. There are a limited number of cards on the game with text. These are called the god cards. Whoever plays the god card goes first. And the god card is simply you do whatever is written on the card. So, for example, let's look at Mercury. The swift messenger of the gods leads one group to move 3 cities or 2 cities in attack, no navis or amphibious movement. So this will allow one army, one group of blocks to move 3 cities, or 2 cities plus a third one, which is an attack, or sorry, or two in attack. Um, so either 3 cities or two, and the second one is an attack. Um, Now there's a special rule, which is if both players, let's say both players had chosen a war card, they reveal a god card, they reveal it at the same time. In that case, both players have played a god card, both are discarded, there's no effect, and that turn is over. It's as if the turn doesn't happen. And this is something that can happen from time to time. And maybe sometimes you want to play your god card, but you're a little bit afraid that your opponent's going to do the same. You want to keep the card, so there's some interesting tension there. Just on these cards, like I mentioned, this is the movement, the number of movement points, and this is the levy, the number of levies. So this is a 3 movement and a 1 levy. Levy is basically to get your reinforcements, which we see here for Pompey and over there for Caesar. Then the command phase is basically, let's say that I've played this card, I have 3 movement. This allows me to move 3 groups, and a group is either an isolated block or 2 blocks or 3 blocks. It's basically an army. It allows me to move one group to 1 or 2 cities. So I can either move 1 city and attack. So, for example, I could activate my armies here in Taraco and move 1 city here to Narbo and attack Caesar, or I can move 2 cities. Let's say, for example, I would move here from Carthago Nova, 1 city, 2 cities, but no attack. So either 1 and attack or 2. But again, I have 3 points, so I can do this with 3 groups. So I could do this one, for example, this one. There's and it's the same for ships. I don't have ships right now here in the sea, but it's the same for ships. And then if there's battles at the end of the turn, any battles are going to be fought. In terms of the armies, it's very straightforward. I'm just going to take a block here from Caesar just to show a Caesar block. So this is a legion. This is Legion 14. They are a legion from Ravenna. And basically, this is the strength of the block. So it's block 3 strength, which means that in battle, they would roll 3 dice. And it's a C3 block, which, again, if you've seen other games with the same system, you know what this means. It means that it's got priority C3. We'll check battles in a second, but this is quite straightforward. There are other blocks which are leaders. I'm going to show you Cleopatra. Cleopatra is a kind of a special leader because her allegiance can change. So if she's eliminated or in battle, she changes to the other side, or if she goes back to Alexandria and Alexandria is taken by the enemy, she will flip over to the enemy side. So she can flip back and forth between Pompey and Caesar. She starts the game on the Pompey side. So that's something that you need to be strategically aware of. There's also the leaders. So, for example, Caesar is a leader. There's a few leaders on both sides, and like I mentioned, a leader killed gives the opponent 1 victory point. So if Pompey kills Caesar, then the Caesar player gives the block to the Pompey player, and this is worth 1 point, and it indicates that it is worth 1 point. Generally speaking, armies that are defeated in battle go back to your levies, to your reinforcements, but the leaders do not. Once they're killed, they're out of the game. There's a couple of other units. There's Auxilia, there's Equitatus, which are cavalry armies. There's ballistas. There's navis. And the navis, I'm just going to show you a navis. Navis is basically navy, and they move from the ports, and ports are places on the map indicated with the ship, and they will move on the sea to both do battles against the other navy, but also to transport troops on the map. It's a very effective way to transport troops on the map very quickly, to cover a lot of ground. And I mentioned there's ballista, and there's also the elephants. There's a block of elephants, which is this one. I was searching for it. It's this one, on the Pompey side. So there's some flavor with the different units, and they're all very well explained here on the rule book. So you can see the leaders, legions, auxilia, equitatus, ballista, navis, Cleopatra. And basically, the other important thing to know is, in terms of the map, you see that the map has the cities. Whoever has friendly units on the cities controls the cities. And there are roads. The other only important thing on the map is that there are roads. There are these roads, which are major roads, which have a solid line, like you see here, and the other ones, which are minor roads, which have a dotted line. Essentially, you can move 4 blocks along a major road, but you can only move 2 blocks along a minor road. So you need to look at the map and plan for this limit in terms of movement. There's also straits. There's seas. I won't go into it, but the seas are also separated by lines. There's ports, which are indicated on the map with the ship sign. So there's ports around the map. There's islands, like Creta, for example, which are also playable, etc. So in terms of the actual command and battle, so as mentioned, you will move your troops around. You will respect the road limit, and whenever you enter a city with blocks from the other player, there is basically a battle. There is no stacking limit to how many blocks you can have on a single city, but these will need to be supplied during the winter phase, so you kind of need to plan for that a little bit more on winter in a bit. I won't go into the naval movements because they're kind of intuitive and similar. There's an amphibious movement, which is slightly amphibious retreat, etc., which is slightly more specific. But let's not get into that. In terms of battles, basically the battle sequence means that, let's say that let's make an example here. I was Pompey. I had my 3 movement, if you remember. I moved Pompey here with my first movement, and let's say that with my second movement, let's say that I was here. I moved here afterwards. So these blocks would be my main force, and this would be my reserve. At the end of the round, when both players have done their movements and their levies, and I'll get to the levies in a second, but player 1 will do movements and then levies. Player 2 will do movements and then levies, and then all the battles that are on the map are going to be fought. Let's imagine that the players are going to do this battle. The way this works is we finally get to flip the blocks and show our opponent what we have. So I'm just going to put them here to the side. So we see this is what Pompey has. This is what Caesar has. I'm just going to flip the Caesar blocks like this so it's easier to see. And this is a reserve. These are the reserve units that will come a little bit later on. So basically, the way this works is blocks get to decide what they want to do based on the letter. So you can see here, actually I don't have any, let me get an A here. Let me get maybe Caesar, because I know that Caesar is an A. So we have these blocks here, and the A's go first. So Caesar would go first. Then the B's go next. And then the C's go next. In case Both players have A's, both players have B's, both players have C's, etc. The defender goes first. So in this case, the Pompey is the attacker, Caesar is the defender, and the first one would be Caesar because he has the Caesar block, the Caesar player, and the Caesar leader block because it has an A. So Caesar would get to decide whether they want to fire, retreat, or pass. There is no retreat in round one of the battle. So there's going to be up to 4 rounds of battle. There's no retreating in the first round of battle, but it is possible to retreat in subsequent rounds. So the way it would work is Caesar has strength 3. So they will roll 3 dice. And this number here next to the A is the number that they up to what they need to roll to score a hit. So with Caesar, 3 dice, 1, 2, or 3 is a hit. So let's roll the dice and see what we get. So we got a 3, a 6, and a 3. So that's 2 hits. So Caesar was able to do 2 hits, and the hits happen right away. So we don't wait. It's not like both players are going to do all of their firing. No, this happens right away. And the 2 hits need to be taken on the strongest armies from the other side. In this case, we have 2 3s and a 2. So the first one, the player would choose this one or this one to take a hit. Let's say we choose this one. The way hits are taken is the block is rotated. So if the block is like this, it's rotated like this. I'm just going to put here vertically from here to here. And then the second hit would need to go on this one because it's the strongest one. Again, if there was another hit, because they're all 2s, strength 2, then the defender Pompey would decide who would take the next hit. So what's the issue with this? This block, for example, was strength 2. It took a hit, and now it's it was strength 3. It took a hit, and now it's strength 2. So when Pompey has a chance to fire with this block, instead of firing 3 dice, they will use 2 dice. So the block has effectively become less strong. And if there's a mismatch between, let's say that Caesar had a B block here, because the next one are going to be the B blocks. There's only one B block, which is this one. But let's say that Caesar had a B block. Because he's the defender, B's would go before Pompey's B's. So it could happen that, Caesar could inflict a lot of casualties on Pompey before Pompey even has a chance to do anything. And this goes on for up to 4 rounds, or until one of the armies has been destroyed, or until everyone has retreated. In terms of retreats, basically, the starting in round 2 of the battle, whenever a block has a chance to decide what to do, they can say, "Oh, I'm going to retreat." I won't go into detail into retreats, but it's basically similar to other games. You need to retreat into an eligible space, so attacker needs to retreat through the roads that they've taken to do the attack. Defender can retreat to a vacant or friendly space. So nothing out of the ordinary. And the reserves, which are here, starting on round 2, would be also revealed, and they would join the battle. So starting in round 2, Pompey would have some reinforcements. And both sides can have reinforcements. Both attack and defense can have reinforcements. And there's this back and forth. Obviously, because there's fog of war, you never know if your opponent has... You know that your opponent has, in this case, I knew that if I'm Pompey, I knew that Caesar has 4 blocks, but I don't know what blocks they are. I might have an idea, but I don't know how strong they are. In this case, he looks pretty strong because he has a Caesar block. Blocks there are eliminated. So if a block loses 1 strength, it goes to a 2. This one loses another strength, goes to a 1. And if they lose another strength, they get eliminated, and they get put back into the levies here, so for future reinforcements. The exception, like I said, is the leaders, who are immediately eliminated and given to the opponent as 1 VP. So this is basically how battles work. There's a few other things. There's pinning, there's disruption. The ballista also has different statistics when attacking or defending. Cleopatra, like I mentioned, if she's defeated in battle, she immediately moves to the other side, strength 1, and continues to fight on the same battle. If a battle has not been finished by the end of round 4, then the attacker needs to retreat, and basically the defender is the winner of the battle. But obviously it can happen, and it often does, that one player has either been fully eliminated or fully retreated, or a combination of elimination and retreat before the 4th round. There's also naval battles, quite similar to this. I won't get into it. There's shore battles because the ships can also participate in shore combat. There's amphibious, etc., etc. Just before we go to end of game, winter turn in end of game, like I mentioned, a player, once they play a card, and if I've played this card, for example, I've got 3 movement and 1 levy, and I do the 3 movement immediately, and I also do the 1 levy at the end of my turn before my opponent plays and any battles are resolved. The levy is quite simple. The levy is with a point of levy, and I have 1 point here. There's other cards that, for example, this one only has 2 movement, but it gives me 3 levy. Let's take this 3 levy card. Each levy point allows me to increase my block 1 step. So 1 levy point would be to go back into the strength 3, which is the maximum. And I could even do, the block is like this. I could do 1 levy, 2 levy, and the block is back at full strength. So I can strengthen blocks by rotating them. Obviously, the block is like this, so my opponent can't see, but let's say the block is like this, and I tell my opponent, okay, I'm spending 1 levy point here. So my opponent knows that I've strengthened this block, even though they don't necessarily know at what strength the block is. So that's one thing. You can add multiple steps to the same block, and the other thing is you can choose blocks from your reinforcements to put on the map. They will be put on the map at strength 1. So 1 levy point allows you to put a block from your reinforcements, either from Pompey's reinforcements or Julius Caesar's reinforcements, on the map at strength 1. But what you can do is, let's say that I wanted to put this Legiu 33 Creta block. I spend 1 levy point to put the block in Creta, and then I can spend the 2nd levy point to strengthen it to 2, and the 3rd levy point to strengthen it to 3. So I can combine putting a new army on the map along with strengthening the block. The rule is basically that leaders leaders like, for example, Brutus need to be deployed in a friendly city, so a city that has your armies. Legions need to deploy on the named city. So, for example, this block here, which is Creta, needs to be deployed in Creta, which is here, and it needs to be a friendly city. So there needs to be a unit there for this block to be able to deploy in Creta. And then most of the other blocks need to deploy in friendly cities, or if they have a named city, they need to deploy in the named city. So, for example, again, Carthago Nova needs to deploy in Carthago Nova. This one doesn't have the name of the city, so this one can be deployed in any friendly city. And the navies, the ships can be deployed in any port, in any major port. At the end of the year, so basically when both players have played their 5 cards, we go into a winter turn, which is basically a maintenance turn. And this is going to have 6 quick steps. The first step is Cleopatra is going to go home to Alexandria. Wherever she is, she goes home to Alexandria, and that's basically it. But if Alexandria is enemy occupied, then she immediately switches allegiances. So let's say that Cleopatra was here, for example, but Caesar has conquered Alexandria during the winter phase. Cleopatra goes here. This is an enemy city, so Cleopatra immediately switches sides to to the Caesar player at her current strength. Then we check if any player has won, meaning if any player has 10 VPs or more, through a combination of cities that have been conquered and leaders that have been killed. All the navies are moved to friendly ports in the same sea. If they're not able to move back to a friendly port, they're disbanded, so they can't stay in the sea for winter. And then you check supply, which is the only time of the game where you check supply. So, like I mentioned, when you do battles, there's not a stacking limit. So basically, you can have as many blocks as you want to do an attack. But this is the phase 4 of winter is the winter supply. Basically, winter supply. What it says is that any cities can supply 3 blocks. Any cities can have 3 blocks without any penalty. And if the city has any value, then that value increases. So, long story short, Carthago Nova can take 3 blocks, but because it has a value of 1, it can take an extra block, so 4 blocks. Rome can take 5 blocks. Most cities can take 3. Cities with numbers can take 3 plus the number there. If you have more blocks there than what the city can supply, then the blocks get disbanded. And then basically there's a year reset where you shuffle your cards and you're going to deal again 6 cards to each player, and one of the cards gets discarded, and the next year starts until a year in which the game ends, or if a player has 10 points or more, or you play until the last year and determine the winner. That's basically the very short summary of the rules. There's a little bit more to this, even though I think I've covered most of what the game mechanics and flow are. In terms of my review, I would highlight 3 good things on the game, and basically, let's say four good points and 3 points that could have been improved. Or the first point is that the game is quite simple. The game is, even though I only gave a very high level view of the game, I think I've covered actually a lot of things. Even though this isn't supposed to be a video about rules, I have covered a lot of the rules already. But obviously, it's very simple to learn through the rule book. Like I said in the beginning, very good rule book, and you can teach this to any type of gamer that is interested in playing this. They don't need to be die-hard war gamers. So very simple, very easy to pick up. I think the game is also quite thematic and has good historical flavor. You have the different types of units, like your leaders. You have the ballistas, you have the navy, you have Cleopatra changing sides, the different cities, etc. The god cards that introduce some an extra element to the game. For example, there's a volcanic eruption. Each block in an enemy city loses 1 step, even if eliminated. These kind of Apollo, the trickster sun god, you can copy a card from your opponent from last turn. So there's good historical flavor on the game. The map looks very nice, and the different types of units also look very nice. You have land battles, you have sea battles, so it's thematically good. It has good historical flavor. I think the other element that I like about this game, and I haven't touched on this, but I will touch on it now, is that the game, even though both players are playing with the same rules, the game is asymmetric in the sense that the Caesar player and the Pompey player have a very different experience and outlook of the game. What do I mean with this is that the strategy here is that Caesar is the aggressor. Caesar is more powerful, at least in the start of the game. He has more powerful armies on the map, and he needs to expand aggressively. If Caesar is not aggressive from the get go, the game is basically lost. And on the other hand, Pompey is a bit on the other side. Pompey is going to be, it can be very easily overwhelmed, and so Pompey needs to decide, needs to pick what battles to fight. Basically, instead of overextending his armies, he needs to decide what battles to fight, what ground he's gonna retreat from, and what cities and regions he's gonna concentrate on defending. So it's even though the rules are the same for the game, so it's not asymmetric in terms of rules. It is very asymmetric in the way you experience the game. So if you play the game as Caesar and then you play the game as Pompey, you're going to have, or vice versa, you're going to have a very different experience of the game. I played this game twice as Pompey, and I was like, retreating and trying to see what cities I could hold on to, and how I could try to salvage my points, etc., etc., while inflicting some casualties on Caesar. And then I played one game as Caesar, and it was completely different. I felt quite powerful, and I felt like I needed to push the envelope and be as aggressive as possible, without making any tactical mistakes, obviously, because the game, for me, the game feels quite balanced. I think all the games that I've played of this feel quite balanced, where at the end of the game, or I've never been in a game with a victory before year 5. I know it certainly happens, but I've never been in a game like that. And I think at the end of year 5, usually the games are very close. It can be decided by, killing off one leader more than your opponent, or conquering Rome. Both players have the same number of points, but one has Rome at the end of the game. So things like those. So it's very, very close games, very tense. I like it. I think the game is packed with good decisions. The decisions feel meaningful, and there's plenty of room for you to make tactical mistakes and go overextend yourself, or attack in places that maybe you shouldn't have, or waiting too much for levying, or not waiting enough for levying. There's a lot of strategy going on, and I think the game, like a lot of war games, if you're new to the game and if you're playing against a very experienced player of this game, you're gonna suffer the consequences. But that's what I like about these games as well. So good decisions, and I think the battles are something else that I like. The battles feel quite meaningful and quite bloody, and you're going to be, there's going to be some battles that are going to be that are going to change the tide of the game, and there's going to be some battles where you're going to feel like you had a great victory, and battles where you might have lost your leader and you lost everything, and it feels quite shocking. I think I would say 3 things that basically remove the game from perfection. The first thing is replayability. The game only has one scenario. It comes with, I'm just going to show you here. It comes with this deployment. This is the scenario. There's an optional deployment method where you can change the deployment a little bit, but really this is the scenario. So there's one scenario in the game. Like I mentioned, you can play as Caesar and as Pompey, and it's a very different experience, and that does add to the longevity of the game. But I feel that with only one scenario, you might feel that the game becomes a little bit limited. For me, I haven't reached that point yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't know, after playing the game 20 or 30 times, you kind of feel that you've seen what the game has to offer. I guess it would have been nice to have some what if scenarios where you start with completely different deployments, etc. On the other hand, I mean, you can probably search online for alternative scenarios, unofficial alternative scenarios, or build your own scenarios to improve the replayability of the game. So I mean, for me this is a minus, but if you get 20 or 30 good plays out of this game, I think that's already very, very good. Another point is it's not necessarily a minus, but because the game does not allow for solitaire. It's not a good. Theoretically, you could play both sides, but given that the game lives and thrives on fog of war and not knowing what your opponent has in terms of both the card that is being played and the cards that they have on their hand and the blocks. I can't see any of these blocks here. I don't know what my opponent has. Um, it's the fog of war element doesn't lend itself to playing solitaire. Um, and the other thing I would say is that the map is quite nice, and the map fits on any regular sized table. I would say that for the size of the blocks, sometimes, for example, let's say that I'm here. Uh, well, let's say that I'm here. I have these blocks here in Rome. I I probably can't see the name of the city that I have my blocks in, so I need to do like this. Or I'm in Rome, and Rome is worth 2 points. So sometimes it's like I want to I'm here, and my opponent is here, and I want to attack, and I kind of want to see how many points this is worth. So I mean, this can be mitigated by putting the blocks like this next to the city, but then you can't see what all of your blocks are. I'm sure there's other ways to mitigate this, but potentially I would have liked for the size of the blocks, and the size of the blocks is fine. I would have liked to see a slightly larger map, but yeah, it is what it is. As final thoughts about this on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give this game a very solid 8. It's a very enjoyable game. I think it's one of the best Roman themed or Roman war games that I've played. Very simple, but with a lot of meat. Very simple to learn, but hard to master with a lot of meat and good, interesting decisions. Great battle system. I think this is a great game. Thank you, and see you next time.